Hi guys, welcome to another episode on the Unofficial Lecturer. Today I have my beautiful guest here, Matapelo Mapangela, who will be looking at the topic of financial literacy. Now, when we talk about financial literacy, we know we have our common definition of how we define financial literacy. Everyone has a different definition, but the most common definition of financial literacy is that financial literacy is a knowledge about money. It's knowledge about being able to manage your finances, being able to make good, sound financial decisions. So, the reason why I chose to be an advocate for financial literacy within our communities because of I've realized that in me making bad financial decisions in the past, I was not actually the only one. Me and you and everyone, we might be the victim of this. So in my journey to knowing more about finances, to being equipped about finances, because at the end of the day, I have qualification in finance, I must be able to use that qualification to make better financial decisions. So I've decided that we're going to use this platform to share with you the knowledge, to share with you our experiences, as well as to grow together in order for us to manage our finances and to making sure that our money works better for us. So our topic for today, we are looking at the difference between savings and investment.
Yeah, and I think starting on this, I think it's only fair to start with defining the difference between savings and investment as a first episode on your series on financial literacy, because I do believe that there is some sort of a misconception, in terms of defining what the difference is between savings and investing. A lot of people, I think, with us, even at some point, we thought that we use savings and investment interchangeably. We thought that they were the same thing, but they are not.
Actually, they're
very much different,
concepts.
and they serve different purposes. So if I can just give a brief distinction of the difference between savings and investment, for me, I would say that savings, it's mainly short term, and sometimes people save but they are not aware. Like, people have the stokvel, people have, what's the other one?
Yeah, people have those things. People have the stokvel, people have schemes where they just contribute money.
Yes,
and
yes.
It's a way of saving, but because of it's informal, according to them, it doesn't look like it's saving.
Yes.
So I think it's because of we've been lacking this financial literacy knowledge to say, then how do we learn that what we are doing is actually saving?
It's actually saving, and you are right. And in fact, the reason why there is so much little knowledge is because people are shy to have financial conversations. In fact, when you start having financial conversations, the first thing people ask is, how much are you earning? And nobody wants to be asked that. I think maybe that's why a lot of people shy so much from this conversation. But also, so defining what an investment is. So we've said that savings, you're just putting money aside, and the initial amount that you invested, which is your capital, it's guaranteed. Whereas with investment is a little bit riskier compared to savings. With investment, you can either double or triple or make 4 times your investment capital. But also, the inverse is true. You can also lose the amount of money that you've invested. But I think another misconception is people think that you need to have thousands and millions of rands to invest, and really you can just start with 1 rand.
I think you just touched on one of the key important topics when coming to this topic, to say that when you want to save or when you want to move your money and become an investor, people think investing you need to be earning well, you need to start with a lot of money, and you can actually even start with 1 rand, like you are saying. But what is important, guys, is that you must know when you go into savings or when you go into investment, these are different concepts, and even the benefit, even the risk of the two categories are different. With investment, normally the risk is very much higher than with savings, but the inverse is also true, to say that the more the risk, the higher the returns. Now, when we talk about you starting to invest with 10 rand or 50 rand, we are saying that you should learn that in investing, there's what we call your fractional share right, meaning that Even with 10 rand, if one share is 100 rand, you are just going to own 10 rand of that 100 rand.
Yes.
So you are going to own a fraction of that share, not the whole share. So it allows us, people with less money, to now have an opportunity to now engage in the market, even using, less money that we might be earning at that point in time. So to say that only the people who are earning well can participate in the market, it's not true.
It's not true. And
No.
also, just to add on your point of fractional shares, I think what also people don't understand is with investing, it's actually about you building habits. People want, it's in our human nature, we want immediate returns, whereas with investing it doesn't work like that. Instead of you focusing on the returns in the first year, rather focus on you building a habit, to say that each and every year I'm going to set aside, no, each and every month rather, so each and every month I'm going to set aside 50 rand, or I'm going to set aside 100 rand and just buy maybe one share. Imagine in a year how many shares would you have bought. And also with investing, because it's a high risk market, you could find that the 500 that you invested a year later or 2 years later would have doubled or tripled. But it starts with you building habits, getting into the habit of investing and investing and investing. And it's not really a market for wealthy people or people who are earning a lot. Anyone, in fact, can start investing, really, can be an investor.
Okay, thanks, Matapelo, for that. Now, I just want us to have a constructive discussion. So I want us to have a look at the empirical research that we have out there, the information in terms of what the research is saying about our country when coming to financial knowledge. Let's have a look at it. So what we have here is that in 2010, we know that the Financial Services Board participated in a pilot study to measure financial literacy in South Africa. Then multidimensional methodology was employed. This methodology measured financial literacy in 4 dimensions. Firstly, financial control, financial planning, choosing appropriate products, and financial knowledge. Now, South Africa was ranked having the lowest overall financial literacy among the 14 countries that participated. So you can just imagine we were ranked the lowest of those 14 countries. Then Japeli further confirmed this low ranking by placing South Africa last among 55 countries. Now, this study, obviously, you can see the magnitude from the 14 countries that we had participated before. Then we moved to a large more countries where there were about 55 of them. So we were, even when coming to those 55 countries, we were even ranked the lowest. So the other point that we need to look at, we look at the survey by Finmark Trust that was done in 2012. The survey reveals big differences in the financial situations of the poor. For example, main source of money for the poor is government grants, salaries and wages. Then loans are mainly used to deal with emergencies, to buy food, or to pay for funerals. Many of the poor have dependents, which make it difficult for them to cover all their expenses with their incomes. Now, efforts to address financial literacy have also been, this initiative have been taken by the financial institutions at the larger scale. So given the financial stress many households experience and the low levels of financial literacy, there is an urgent need to improve this situation. So in this series, we are going to cover all the corners of financial literacy, and I believe we are going to start improving our financial situation as we continue to engage and build one another.
Okay, so I think with anything that you do, the best starting point should always be understanding the definitions behind whatever it is that you're doing. With me, I like to refer and understand what the definition is before we can tap into conversations and unpacking the other layers. So first things first, let's first define what a saving is, what is an investment, and also what is the goal. So if you have this goal, which one should you go for between investing and saving? Okay. So savings, it's defined as an act of putting money away in a safe place with the intention of using it in the future. What else with investing? It is defined as an act of putting money into investments. So the investments can vary from shares, funds, and property, with the hope that your money will grow. So by just listening to those two definitions, you can see that with investing, the intention is to grow the money that you have invested. Whereas with saving, you are putting it away. Although now we have things like your fixed deposit accounts, which will give you some sort of a return based on the capital that you have invested. But the intention is for you to be able to use that money that you would have invested. So the capital for you should be the same when you save. Whereas with investing, the intention is solely to grow the amount. And with growing, like we said, it can either grow, and the inverse is true, it can multiply. The decision of whether to save or invest, it depends on your objective and what you are trying to achieve, right? If your goal is to accumulate a smaller amount for a short-term goal, guys, keynote, if you are trying to accumulate a smaller amount for a short-term goal, then a savings account is probably the way to go. But if your goal is more long term, like we said, like retirement, or if you want to build wealth, which is, I think, it's our objectives is our objective at this point, then investment account is more in line with your needs. So investing, it's mainly long term, whereas savings, it's strictly short term.
True. Now, as my colleagues have said, I'm gonna call her my colleague and keep things very professional between us. So she's my colleague for today. Although other days she's in a different department. So when we look at our savings, we say that savings are accounts that are good for keeping money safe. Savings accounts will not make you a fortune. However, they are considered among the best for keeping money away or for saving for rainy days. I don't know if you agree with this statement, but for me, it makes sense, to say that you won't make a fortune out of savings, but you will definitely have some money spared for rainy days. Like now we have COVID-19, where people are, some of them, they are earning half of their salary, some of them are being retrenched. But if you had some sort of savings, or even if they say, look, you only come back to work after the lockdown, what are you going to use in the meantime to survive? So I think when you have savings, you can easily tap into your short-term savings and be able to buy the necessities that you need on daily basis while at home.
Yeah, and I think what is also important from that statement is it will not make you a fortune. So with savings, the rate of return, it's very low. It is very low. Sometimes it ranges between 6 and 9%, if I'm not mistaken. So imagine if you invest 10,000 and then you get a return of 9% per annum. How many years is it going to take you to double that amount? But also taking into account things like your time value for money. Even if you can double it 10 years from now, 10,000 10 years from now, it's not going to be worth what 10,000 is today. So I think it's very true that you can't make a fortune from a savings account.
Just to emphasize on what Matapelo is saying, is that people don't know the concept of time value of money. So time value of money is a very simple concept, but yet profound if you know it. Meaning that I'm gonna do this example because I think it's very simple. In order to understand time value of money, let's say you have 100 rand today. You use that 100 rand to buy 4 apples. In 3 years' time, the 4 apples will cost you 120. So meaning that the same 100 rand that you're going to use in 3 years' time will not buy you 4 apples. You will need extra 20 rand. So what we say by that is that when you save, remember saving, you get a very low interest rate. When you save 10,000 today for 5 years, for example, let's say you make it's a simple interest, you are saving at 5%. Or let's make this pretty simple. You are saving at 10%. You are saving 10,000, 10% of it, which is 1,000. So if it's a simple interest per annum, you are going to receive 1,000. So we are saying, let's assume you get the maximum profit, which is 10% for 3 years, meaning that after 3 years on simple interest, you're going to get 3,000 as your returns. It means that today 10,000, in 3 years time, it might be enough just to buy you things that are worth 13,000 at that time, because now you have increased by 3,000. But does it really make you any less or more after 3 years? For my side, it's no. I think if you have 10,000 today and you can afford to buy 4 apples with 10,000, in 3 years you are going to need that 13,000 to buy the same apples. So in fact, the interest rate that you are receiving today, it might not even be that significant, So time value of money is a very important concept that we must know. When you save, take that into consideration to say that, well, I benefit if I have to receive 500 from saving 5,000 today. Let's say after 5 years you only receive 500 on the 5,000. Is it worth it? Then the concept of time value of money will come into play. So here we look at the advantages and disadvantages of savings. The first one, we see that saving accounts are relatively low risk because they are stable. They don't fluctuate with the stock market that much. Then again, capital amount that you put in and the returns are always guaranteed. Now, if you know savings that we have with your financial institutions, which normally offer your fixed deposit, whereby they will be promising you they're gonna give you 5%, they always keep it up and keep their word to say that you're going to receive the 5%.
I think, but also just to emphasize, you need to wait until the investment matures, until the no, we'll cut that out. I think just to emphasize that it's important that we reiterate that for you to get the return, you need to wait until the full period of the whatever condition that they said. If they said you are going to earn 6% over the next 12 months, then you will only earn it after 12 months. If you decide to withdraw your money before the 12 months lapses, then you won't be able to get even that 6%. And sometimes financial institutions are very strict. Sometimes they can even penalize you for withdrawing the amount of money prior to the time that you had agreed on.
Yeah, what Matapolo is raising is very important. And I think, again, what people don't understand is the fact that they want to invest or they want to save for some reason. And chances are they want to save, but they still have other debts. So if you're going to save, remember, saving, this is the money that you're going to forfeit for now, with the concept that you're going to use this money in the future. But if you're going to have a concept that every time when you wake up you will remember your saving, every time when you go broke, the first thing that you remember is the savings, to say, but I have 5,000 that I'm putting somewhere, why don't I use it? That's a bad way of saving, because you would have been saving for, let's say, 12 months. Then because of you have other debts and you just remember that you have other savings, you will always go into those savings to take out money and use it. And once you do that, they penalize you. So after a year, you won't even see any returns on your savings because of the penalties and the fees that they charge you for taking out your money earlier would have, charged your returns
that you were
on the savings
supposed to get. And I think also, with regards to savings, one thing that makes us to not be committed to the full period of saving is the fact that when we distribute our money or when we do our budget, you want to remain with zero. You do all your expenses, and then after your expenses you set aside money that you are going to save, and then from there the remaining balance is zero. Obviously you are going to tap into your savings if the remaining balance is zero. The reality is you need a cash flow. And cash flows are not only for businesses, also you as an individual. When you sometimes you just crave McFlurry. Imagine now you need to tap into your savings for a McFlurry, or now you need to tap into your savings because you ran out of petrol. You didn't maybe budget appropriately for your fuel for the whole month, and then you realize, 5 days left now before I'm getting paid, my fuel is not going to sustain me. So now you tap into the savings. So people need to understand that when you save with a goal and be realistic, be as realistic as possible. It's all good and well to love the idea of saving. When you have conversations with your friend, you're like, I've saved this much for the month. It really sounds appetizing, but be realistic with your saving. Don't stretch your muscles too hard,
Yeah, I think what people don't understand is that, when, especially with us, I don't know if it's the people of our skin or what, but people tend to, when they save, they want to see the returns more quicker, and that's very dangerous, because if you are going to want to save and see the returns on whatever the amount you are saving quicker, it means you must save large amount of money. And most of the people, we know that they do not have that type of money with them. So the method here, the formula here, is for you to save whatever, the little that you have, the money that you can afford to save without compromising the necessities that you still need to buy. So you first buy everything that you need, you first pay all your debts, and whatever that is left, remember Matapelo also touched on the concept that you also need cash flow. You cannot save all your money, then when you don't have anything, you must run to the bank to take money out of that saving. You must also have some sort of a cash flow in your bank account. So have some sort of a percentage where you get an idea in terms of, I'm going maybe to keep, for let's say you are left with 5,000. From the 5,000, you keep a cash flow of 2,000, or you keep a cash flow of 2.5. You invest the remaining so that you are able to also live. Remember, we have things that we need on daily basis. You might need airtime, you might need a takeaway, don't feel like cooking, you might need to chill sometimes with the gents and just have 2 beers, or just to buy 6-pack of Savannah. And imagine if you don't have that money, you are going to be frustrated with your life, and you're going to tap into those savings. So you must only save what you can afford, and only save when you have taken out all the essentials that must be paid first, the essentials that your money must accumulate first, or your money must accompany before you can start, you can start thinking about saving. But how do you do that? It's very simple. I always tell people, if you want to save, you cannot save when you have a lot of debts. First thing first, to be honest, you cannot save. You can love the idea of saving. So the first thing that you must do is to get rid of those debts.
The big elephant in the room.
Those debts. Just get rid of them. So how do you make sure you get rid of your debts?
Especially your short-term debt.
Exactly. We are not talking about your mortgage bond, because we know it's a long term. But we are talking about the installment of your car. We are talking about your clothing account. Or your personal loans. People take money, personal loans, just to have money.
Card. Imagine you have a savings account, but you have a credit card.
And another way of us thinking we have money, it's through a credit card. They give you a credit card of 10,000, you think it's your money. It's not.
It
is. I mean, like, remember, the credit card, they are very simple, guys. They say that if you don't use that money, you don't owe them. You are not going to pay anything. If you paid in time, there's no interest. But what are the chances of you sticking to that, being that disciplined? It's also about having that financial discipline in order for you to make it.
In fact, I think even sometimes the universe will conspire against you. It's like when you have a credit card, then you forgot your other bank card. Like, things just happen, and just something happens at home, and then you don't have that money. And if you didn't have a credit card, you probably would have told the people at home that, can you just wait until month end? But now, because you have a credit card, you want to tap into the credit card. Like, it really requires a lot of discipline. Like, for me, honestly, it's really not worth it to have a credit card. Hey, I've seen people who advocate for a credit card, but based on my personal experience, I've had a credit card for 2 months, and I was like, I'm not doing this to myself.
When you talk about the issue of credit card, I remember even with the business types that advocates for people to have credit card, I always say no to those type of businesses. And one of the business industry that normally wants you to have a credit card as a sort of a security in case of something goes wrong, it's when you rent a car. I know we wanted to go to Durban, we didn't have a credit card. It was the worst.
That's how I got into the credit card.
Exactly. It was the worst decision we ever made, guys. But I can tell you, there is other method. These guys, they say that it's either you have a credit card or you have a check account. So a check account is a bit expensive in terms of fees, but definitely it's better than having a credit card, because the check account, the money that is going to be in the check account is the money that you are going to save as an individual, rather than using the money that is being borrowed to you, then you need to pay that money off again. So let's have a look at the disadvantages of having a savings account. So normally we know that interest rates on savings accounts are normally low. You are not going to get anything that is above 9%. Even 9% is still high, guys. The highest as you can go, I think it's about 8 point something percent. The lowest you're going to get something between 6%. Last time when I checked, Capitec was a bit much better, placed when coming to the interest rates compared to other financial institutions. Things might have changed, but I can tell you they range between 4% to normally 8%. You won't get anything more than that. Then the other thing, savings account takes a lot of discipline and commitment. Although a lot of people have savings account, only few people are disciplined and committed enough to keep the capital saved until it matures. Like we were saying, if you're going to have a savings account, I mean, wow, you must be able to forfeit that money for now until it matures. Any break-ins in between, it's going to jeopardize the money that you can receive as your interest. And other people will say, but hey, how do I not tap into my savings if I have an emergency?
And sometimes, sorry to disturb you. Sometimes you don't even lose on the return. You also lose on the initial capital amount, especially if you withdraw before the maturity period. They would penalize you maybe 3% of the amount you have invested, because people don't understand that when you save money or put money in a fixed deposit account, you are initially saying that, hey, I'm not going to need this money. So what does the bank do? The bank takes the money and borrows it to Kenneth, who needs a personal loan, and then they charge Kenneth a certain interest rate. When Kenneth repays the bank will take a certain portion based on your agreement on your interest rate, and then they would give it to you, and then the other one they keep. So if now you come back to them and say, oh no, actually I made a mistake, I want my money before 12 months, so I want it now, they will obviously give you your money, but they are going to penalize you, because it means they need to go and take from John now to give to repay you.
Exactly. And the other thing, that's why I always tell people, savings, if you are willing to build a fortune, or if you are willing to build your wealth, savings is not a good account to have. But for short-term and medium-term stuff, you do need to have a savings account. So the other thing that my colleague would like to say.
Stop calling me a colleague.
She's a colleague.
Anyway, so yeah, I wanted to emphasize on that point of discipline and commitment. Like we said, I think also we need to understand that, for me, I like to use the muscle analogy. So anything, it's a muscle. You have a financial muscle, you have a spiritual muscle. So all of these things now would normally say that it starts with a muscle. A muscle starts very small, and then over time it stretches and stretches. Even with savings, it's a muscle that you need to grow. So if you want to make it as practical as possible, start with smaller amounts, because people, like I said, it's very fashionable to say that I'm saving, but it doesn't make sense if you are going to keep on tapping into those savings accounts. So rather, when you start with a very small amount that you would have spent at McDonald's or at KFC. Start by saving 100 rand, and then next month, when you see that, oh, actually, at the end of the month, after putting 100 rand away, I still remained with 400 when I got paid, then it means you can put maybe 300, not the whole 400 that remain, because there are circumstances that we do not budget for. There are circumstances that are unforeseen. So if you are going to make your budget very strict, it will also make it difficult for you to be committed and disciplined.